Hello again. In the second part of this module, we will see how we can start to create hypotheses of the market need, how we can start to create assumptions based on different problems that we may see around us. For example, restaurants have a small problem with food that starts to be close to the expiration date. A lot of times they have to throw away almost very good food because they didn't manage to sell it in time. So this is a problem they have. Now, one question that we may have is, would people buy food close to expiration date? This is one thing that we may have to test. We may want to test. And after this, we may start to think to different solution for this problem. Another example, because I spoke about fencing equipment. A lot of people want to do fencing classes. This is, again, something that we may want to test. With the new COVID, another interesting thing that we may want to test. A lot of students want online classes now. Maybe they don't want to spend any more time in traffic, and maybe for a few domains, online classes may be a good thing now, but we have to test it. We don't know anything about this. Also, a lot of people these days have problem with sleeping. So one thing that we may want to test is, do people with sleeping disorder want a device that can help them in order to solve this problem? These are general hypotheses from which we can start, and then we can zoom in order to get to a smaller hypothesis that can be actually tested. Again, do not forget, cheap and fast. These are two very important things for us. Cheap and fast. We want to test ideas cheap and fast. But as you can see, these hypotheses are very general. It's hard to actually test them in this way. We should quantize them. We should move forward to what is called XIZ hypothesis. And from the general hypothesis that I gave you as example, we should zoom in a little bit and quantify the things. For example, this XIZ hypothesis want to test this. At least X% of I people would like Z. For example, instead of many people would buy food close to expiration date, the XIZ hypothesis would be 20% of the people who order food would buy food close to expiration date for a 50% discount. And in this way, we can start to see if a product appears based on real needs of real desire of the people. Because it's true that restaurants have a problem with food close to expiration date, but if nobody would buy food close to expiration date, we cannot start to think at the product here. We may start to find other solutions. Again, if we take, for example, the hypothesis many people would participate to fencing classes, the XIZ version would be 5% of active persons would participate to 8 classes amount of fencing. Now, you see that I've used actual numbers, actual figures, 20%, 5%, How did I choose these figures? Well, this depends on the problem. This depends on the hypothesis. For example, for fencing classes, I presumed that there are around 20 sports which are more popular to persons. So a good threshold for me would be 5% in order to see if people actually want to try fencing classes. Otherwise, we try gymnastics, we try football, other things, because if people aren't interested in fencing classes, we cannot start fencing classes. So you see, these figures are relative to the actual problem you have. And also, these figures should be related to your business model, because all the time you would need a minimum number of clients in order to be able to start an idea. So again, we used real numbers here, but they are very relative. They depend on your problem. Okay, so this will be something that you will learn by doing it step by step. Maybe the first tryout won't be the best one, but by repeating, you will see that you will be able to fix these figures quite well based on your business model needs. And we will see this in the following slide. Also, you can see other XI hypotheses here. For example, we may start an online university if 40% of the persons who wish to enroll in a university would participate to online classes for $1,000 per year. We may start to build devices that improve sleep quality if 40% of the persons with sleep disorder would pay $100 for a device which improves the sleep quality. And the examples may go on and on. Again, this version of hypothesis, it's again too general because we don't know how can we actually test this. Or we may find a solution, but it may be too expensive because we would need to speak to a lot of people. So the next step here would be to zoom in even further to see if we can test this XIZ hypothesis at a very small level. And afterwards, we can try different versions of our idea in order to find out the proper one that we can actually use. So, for example, instead of testing your food idea, if people want to buy food close to expiration date in every restaurant in your city, in every restaurant in your country, maybe it's good enough if you start with only a chain of restaurants. For example, KFC. You may start to try your idea with clients that order food from KFC. So the Zoom XIZ hypothesis would sound like this. 20% of the people who order food from KFC would buy food close to expiration date for a 50% discount. So now things are starting to be doable. You go in a KFC restaurant and you can start testing your idea. And you will see that we can do this thing quite easy, quite fast with the prototyping tools. Again, something which we can test very fast is to go to a local university in your town and speak with the students that are already enrolled there. So you can test if 40% of the person who wish to enroll in a local university would participate to online classes for $1,000 per year, then maybe you found a real problem there. Maybe you found an idea of a solution. So from this, you may start to use the tools that we will see later on in this module.